It only made sense when my son started coughing up blood. I didn't realize what was really going on until my son started coughing up blood in the middle of the night. Until then, everything seemed fine. We were happy in our new apartment. A small, older complex, but quiet and affordable. It was the best I could afford after the divorce. I'm raising Ethan, my 5-year-old, pretty much on my own. Moving there had been a relief. We'd finally left behind a toxic environment. But unknowingly, we were walking into something far worse. In the first few days, I noticed weird things coming from the apartment above us. Loud thuds, furniture dragging, and this sharp, chemical smell that would come and go quickly. I assumed it was renovations. Didn't think much of it. Just typical neighbor noise, right? But then it started happening almost every day. The smell was hard to describe. Acidic, strong, and it seemed to seep through the bathroom walls. I noticed that every time the smell appeared, Ethan would get congested. Then came the coughing, then the fever. I'd take him to the doctor, and it was always the same answer. Probably just a virus. At first, I believed it. Kids get sick all the time. But then it started to feel too connected. Every time the smell came back, he got worse. I started tracking it. Days, times, symptoms. A clear pattern formed. Every time that smell appeared, Ethan's condition would spike. Then, one night, he coughed up blood for the first time. I lost it. Rushed him to the ER. The doctor said it could be a respiratory infection or possibly a severe allergic reaction. She asked if we were being exposed to any toxic substances. That's when it finally hit me. Maybe that smell wasn't normal at all. I started paying closer attention to the apartment above. It was eerily quiet. I never saw anyone go in or out. A neighbor at the end of the hall told me a woman named Vanessa lived there, alone. She keeps to herself, she said. But then one day, I finally saw her. She was coming down the stairs, dragging a massive black bag, like the kind used in industrial garbage, and wearing rubber gloves. That chemical smell came with her. I just stood there, watching. She looked up and noticed me, smiled and said, "Ongoing renovations upstairs. Total mess," and walked away like nothing was wrong. The next day, I went up and knocked on her door. I was ready to ask her directly what was going on. No one answered. Right then, the smell came back, stronger than ever, coming from the bathroom window, like something was being dumped through a pipe. I called the building manager. She said there wasn't much she could do without proof. If I thought it was serious, I'd have to call the health authorities. But I wasn't ready to start a war without knowing what I was dealing with. Then one night, by pure coincidence, I saw something that made me freeze. I was taking out the trash and noticed the side gate, the one that leads behind the building to the water tanks, was wide open. That gate is never open. So I went to check it out. And I saw Vanessa. She was crouched down, messing with a huge bucket, wearing a plastic coverall, mask, and gloves. Some kind of strange foam was spilling across the floor. I stood there, hidden, watching, paralyzed. She turned her back and dragged the bucket back inside. The next morning, Ethan woke up vomiting, with a weird irritation in his eyes. This time, I didn't wait. I called the health inspection authorities. But before they arrived, someone tipped her off. And Vanessa vanished. The health inspectors showed up the next morning. I was basically on guard at the window, watching to see if she'd open the door. But when they knocked, no one answered. 3 attempts. They rang the bell, knocked again, called her name. One of the neighbors, who'd also complained about the strange smell, told the agents he hadn't seen the woman in at least 2 days. They tried contacting the property manager to open the unit with a spare key, but he said he wasn't legally allowed to enter without permission. So, nothing happened. The whole thing lost momentum quickly. 2 days later, the smell vanished completely. The apartment was dead silent. And the strangest part? No one ever saw Vanessa again. At first, I figured she had moved out. Relief? Sure. But not entirely. Something about it felt calculated, like she knew someone would report her. Like she had everything planned. And then, about a week later, I found something that changed everything. The building's janitor, Mr. Arland, who was friendly with me and Ethan, mentioned something in the elevator. Looks like the girl in 3B just left. Apartment's still locked, but she gave the key back to the office. That set off alarm bells in my head. I went straight to the building manager. I lied, said I might be interested in renting the place, just to get a look inside. He was a little suspicious, but agreed to let me take a peek for general condition purposes. I wasn't ready for what I saw. There was no renovation going on. The place looked like an improvised setup. Several shelves stacked with sealed plastic bins, containers, buckets, and industrial cleaning supplies. In the laundry area, I saw what looked like a DIY ventilation system running straight out the bathroom window, exactly where the smell had always come from. In the kitchen, the walls were stained with some dried, grayish substance. Warning labels with chemical symbols were stuck to the bins. Nothing was clearly labeled, but it was obvious. This wasn't just household cleaner. Used gloves, disposable cloths, that same harsh smell, still lingering, even after days. That's when it hit me. She had turned the apartment into a chemical lab. No proper ventilation, no safety protocols. And whatever she was producing, homemade cosmetics, illegal substances, who knows, was leaking into the pipes, the air vents, affecting Ethan directly. I went straight to the police and filed a full report. I brought everything. The notes I'd taken, pictures I snapped with my phone, even a short video I'd recorded of her with the buckets. But since she had already left, the case stalled. They said they'd open an investigation, but made it clear that unless she was found, there wasn't much they could do. I was furious. This woman had basically poisoned my child inside our home, and the system was doing nothing. To make matters worse, the property manager decided to put the apartment up for rent again. He said there was no concrete proof of a crime, and it wasn't his responsibility. I was livid. Ethan was still undergoing treatment for his respiratory issues, and they were going to let someone else live in that contaminated space without even investigating it properly? So I made a decision. I took everything I had, the police report, the photos, Ethan's medical exams, the hospital notes, and I posted it all in a large local community forum and a neighborhood Facebook group. The story exploded. Hundreds of comments. People tagging local news outlets. Dozens of new reports sent in. It went viral in less than 24 hours. 2 days later, the health inspectors returned. But this time, with an official order to shut the unit down. They found toxic substances still on the premises. Expired chemical products. And the report clearly stated, unfit for habitation. The apartment was sealed off. I should have felt relief. But then, the next month, I went to check my bank statement and realized the nightmare wasn't over. There was a $670 charge for chemical materials made under my name. The $670 charge was for a purchase of chemical supplies, made online, using my full legal name. The kind of name I only use on official documents. And the shipping address? Mine. Worse, the transaction was dated 2 weeks before Vanessa vanished. I scrambled to check all my personal info. I logged into accounts, monitored my social security number, and immediately filed a police report. I kept asking myself, how did she get my information? Then it clicked. A while after we moved in, the building management had asked me for a copy of a utility bill to confirm my residency. I gave one to the janitor, who kept it in the office downstairs. If she lived right above us, it wouldn't have been hard for her to pass by, see documents lying around, maybe snap a photo or jot something down. In small buildings, especially older ones, personal info isn't hard to get if someone's looking. But knowing that didn't help me much now. I reached out to the online supplier. They confirmed the order had been placed using my name, my address, my SSN, but the email had one letter switched, as if someone had created a new account to impersonate me. I asked for cancellation, investigation, anything. They opened a case, but said the products had already shipped and that without solid proof of fraud, I was legally responsible. In short, I was on the hook. I went back to the police station. I showed them the bank statement, the supplier's reply, the toxicology report from the apartment, and the original complaint. The officer barely looked up before saying, "You'll need to prove you didn't place the order yourself." That's right. I had to prove my innocence. I left in shock. How could someone steal your identity, set up an illegal lab, vanish, and you're the one stuck with the consequences? I spent the next few days in full-on panic mode. I installed a camera outside my door, froze my credit, changed every password I had, filed reports with consumer protection, identity theft services, everything I could think of. Meanwhile, Ethan was still recovering, and we were juggling specialist appointments and follow-up tests. But it didn't stop there. One Saturday afternoon, about 3 weeks after all this started unraveling, 2 men in suits rang my doorbell. They had ID badges from a chemical transport company and said they were there to pick up the rest of the inventory. I froze. I told them I had no idea what they were talking about, that I hadn't ordered anything, and I didn't have any supplies. One of them raised an eyebrow and asked my name. I told him. He pulled out his phone and showed me a screen with a delivery record. My name, my address, my SSN, all correct. They apologized and left, saying they'd check with the main office. But their faces told me they knew something was off, like they'd seen this kind of thing before. Then came the final blow. On Monday, I got a notification about an unpaid business registration fee. When I checked the system, I found that someone had tried to open an LLC using my information. And guess the industry listed? Cleaning and cosmetic product sales. She hadn't just used my identity to buy supplies. She had built an entire business setup under my name. A fake company, a paper trail, a plan to disappear and leave me holding the bag. The worst part? Authorities still couldn't find her. Even her real name, Vanessa, wasn't in the lease. The apartment had been rented informally, under a third-party name. Everything was temporary, improvised, like she had been planning this exit strategy from the beginning. She looked like an ordinary neighbor, friendly, quiet, the kind who might smile and hold the elevator door. And yet, she had built a trap around me. I hired a lawyer. We started building a case for identity theft, fraud, and damages. But everything was slow, buried in paperwork, and depended on finding her. Meanwhile, my life kept falling apart. My credit was frozen. My reputation stained. My time completely consumed by police reports, court visits, and endless red tape. But what scared me the most was knowing she was still out there. She knew my name, my face, my son, and apparently, how to become me. Then one day, by complete accident, I found her, in the last place I would have ever expected. It was just another Wednesday. I had taken Ethan to the local health clinic for one of his follow-up exams. While we waited to be called in, I stepped into the pharmacy next door to grab a prescription. And then, it happened. She walked right past me, wearing a face mask, sunglasses, and her hair dyed a dark chestnut brown. But even with the disguise, I knew. The way she walked, her height, her skin tone, the way she held her purse. My whole body locked up. And then she looked at me, just for a second. But I saw it, recognition. She turned her face away and walked faster toward the exit. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I bolted after her. She turned a corner and walked into a small beauty clinic. I didn't think. I followed her in, phone in hand, pretending to be on a call while recording. I sat down in the waiting area and waited. A staff member came to the front desk and asked if I needed help. I calmly asked, "Does Vanessa work here?" She hesitated. "You mean Juliana?" That was it. New name, new life. I left as if everything was fine, but I sent the video straight to my lawyer. With the footage, my entire case history, and her new location, we were finally able to reopen the investigation, this time with solid evidence. And at last, the police stepped in. They discovered Juliana was using fake documents, working as an unlicensed technician in that clinic, and even worse, storing expired chemical products on the premises. When they confronted her, she tried to deny everything. But the trail was too clear. The online orders made in my name, the new LLC registered with my social security number, and now, her face on camera, working under a new identity. She was arrested for identity theft, document fraud, and public health violations. I cried when I got the call. For the first time in months, I felt like someone had actually believed me, that the nightmare might finally end. But this wasn't some neat TV ending. My name is still flagged in several systems. It took months to clean up the identity mess, and even now, I still face extra screenings when applying for anything. Ethan recovered, but he's left with a respiratory sensitivity that we constantly have to manage. My finances, a wreck. I'm still patching things together. I won the lawsuit against her, but she claims she had no assets. So chances are, I'll never see a dime of the compensation. The beauty clinic shut down, and my apartment building? Still trying to shake off the bad reputation. But what stuck with me the most? How many people told me afterward, this could have happened to me? And that's why I tell this story. Because today, it only takes one loose document, one slip with your name or number, and your life can be flipped upside down. It doesn't take a criminal ring. It doesn't take a hacker. Sometimes, it's just your neighbor, smiling in the hallway, saying, "Let me know if you ever need sugar." And now, more than fear, I carry a lesson. Never ignore the signs. And never think that speaking up is worse than being paranoid.